If speaking the truth could destroy your life, would you stay silent? Elias Verne did, for 7 years, until the day silence was no longer enough. No one remembered when Elias Verne had started speaking less. Some claimed it was after the trial. Others said it was long before that, back when his eyes still held the softness of someone who believed the world operated on fairness. What was certain was this: by the time the city noticed him, Elias Verne had not spoken a full sentence in nearly 7 years. He lived alone in a narrow apartment above a closed tailor's shop. The windows always clean, the lights always off by 10. Every morning at precisely 4:30 a.m., he rose, folded his blanket with military precision, and sat on the edge of his bed in silence for 5 minutes. No phone, no prayer, just breath. Into mirror, his face was unreadable. Not cold, not angry, simply settled, as if every emotion had already passed through him and found no reason to stay. The city of Greyhaven was loud by design. Sirens, arguments, engines revving like beasts, fighting for dominance. Elias moved through it like a ghost. He worked as a maintenance technician for the municipal rail system, an invisible job for an invisible man. His co-workers spoke around him, never to him. "He's creepy," one said once. "No," another replied. "He's just empty." They were both wrong. Elias was full of restraint. 7 years earlier, he had been a public defender. Idealistic, precise, the kind of man who believed words could save lives. And for a while, they did. Until the case that ended him. A 17-year-old boy. Wrong neighborhood, wrong night, wrong skin color. The evidence was thin. The police testimony rehearsed. Elias fought with everything he had precedent. Logic, doubt. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty. The boy died in prison 2 years later. A medical complication, they said. Elias attended the funeral. He stood at the back, hands clasped, listening to a mother scream in a way no human voice ever should. That scream followed him home. It lived in his chest. It spoke when he couldn't sleep. And one night, sitting alone in his kitchen, Elias realized something terrifying. Words had failed him, not once, but completely. That was the night he decided he would never waste another word again. From then on, Elias spoke only when speech was necessary for truth or survival, which meant he spoke almost never. Every evening, he trained. No gym membership, no music, no mirrors. Just his body, the floor, and time. Push-ups until his arms shook. Squats until his legs burned. Cold showers that stole his breath and taught him discipline through discomfort. Pain, he learned, was honest. Pain never lied to make you feel better. He read Marcus Aurelius by candlelight, Epictetus on the train, Seneca during lunch breaks, chewing dry bread without complaint. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Elias had mastered that. People mistook his silence for weakness. They always do. The incident happened on a Tuesday. Rain slicked the pavement. A man shouted. A woman cried. Elias was exiting the underground station when he saw it. A teenager shoved against a wall by 2 transit officers. One had his knee pressed into the boy's back. The other rifled through his pockets. "No reason," the officer said loudly. "Just to check." The boy's eyes met Elias's. Fear, pure and familiar. For the first time in 7 years, Elias felt the pressure behind his teeth, the urge to speak. He didn't. He stepped closer instead. One officer looked up. "Move along," he said. Elias didn't move. I said move. Still nothing. The officer stood, taller, louder, used to obedience. "Hey there. Are you deaf?" Elias met his gaze. Calm, unblinking. The officer shoved him. Elias staggered but didn't fall. He adjusted his jacket. And then, quietly, unmistakably, he spoke. "Get your knee off his spine." The officer froze. Not because of the words, because of the tone. There was no anger in Elias's voice, no threat, just certainty. The second officer laughed nervously. "You want to make this a problem? At least do it on record," he said. The knee lifted. The boy scrambled free and ran. Elias turned to leave. "You think you're some hero?" The officer spat. "No," he said. "I think I'm responsible." That was all. That night, A complaint was filed. A name was recorded, Elias Verne, and the city noticed him again. But silence, once broken, attracts consequences, and Elias knew something the city didn't. This was only the beginning. Greyhaven did not forgive those who disrupted its rhythm. 2 days after the incident, Elias was suspended pending investigation. His supervisor avoided eye contact. HR spoke in rehearsed sympathy. "You understand?" they said. Elias nodded. Understanding was easy. Acceptance was harder. He returned to his routine. Train, read, train harder. But the city was watching now. Men began appearing where they shouldn't. A black sedan parked too long outside his building. A uniformed officer who didn't blink during casual conversation. Pressure is a language of its own. Most men react to pressure with noise, anger, panic, explanation. Elias reacted with silence, and that silence unsettled them. One night, the knock came. 3 sharp raps, no hesitation. Elias opened the door. 2 men, plain clothes, authority worn casually. "Elias Verne," one said. "We need to talk." "About?" Elias asked. The word felt heavy, precious. "You know about?" Elias stepped aside. They searched his apartment, without asking. Books, notes, no weapons, no computer. "You think reading philosophers makes you untouchable?" One scoffed. Elias watched them calmly. "No," he replied. "It makes me prepared." "Prepared for what?" the man asked. Elias didn't answer, because the answer was already unfolding. The next week footage surfaced. Edited footage. A clip of Elias stepping toward the officers, cut before the shove, before the knee lifted. The headline wrote itself. "Silent agitator interferes with police operation." Online commentators devoured him. Why didn't he just mind his business? Another fake intellectual. Silence doesn't make you wise. Elias read none of it. Instead, he returned to the one courtroom that still let him sit quietly in the back. He watched cases unfold. He studied faces. Judges who hid bias behind professionalism, prosecutors who confused confidence for truth, and slowly, an idea formed. If words had failed in court, then maybe actions could speak there instead. Elias volunteered clerical work, filing, research, no speaking roles. At night, he helped families understand paperwork they couldn't read. He translated law into plain truth. He never argued, never promised outcomes. He simply showed up and people noticed. A woman once asked, "Why do you help like this?" Elias responded, "Because I know what it's like to lose quietly." The real test came 6 months later. The boy from the station, Malik, had been arrested. Drug possession, false charge, set up. The same officers. The system moved fast, this time, too fast. Elias stood outside the courtroom as Malik's mother wept. "You're the man from the station," she said. "You saved him once." Elias met her eyes. "I didn't save him," he replied. "I delayed them." She swallowed. "Can you help again?" The courtroom doors opened. Elias inhaled. For 7 years, he had avoided this moment. He stepped forward. "I'll represent him," he said. He hadn't spoken publicly in nearly a decade. But when Elias Verne stood to address the court, the room grew quiet, not because he was loud, but because he was exact. He dismantled the case, piece by piece. Timestamps, contradictions, body cam gaps. He did not raise his voice once. He let silence do the work. When the prosecutor objected, Elias waited. When the judge rushed him, Elias slowed. And when the officers testified, Elias asked only one question each. "Is this your signature?" They lied. He proved it. The jury took 40 minutes. Not guilty. Outside the courtroom, reporters surged. "Mr. Verne, why did you go silent for so long?" Elias paused. Cameras waited. "This will be my only answer," he said. "When I realized words without integrity are noise, I chose silence. When silence was no longer enough, I chose truth." He turned away, and for once, the city paid attention. But power does not like to be challenged quietly, and Elias had just lit a fire. The threats became explicit. Anonymous letters, court delays. A brick through his window with a message attached. "Stop." Elias replaced the glass himself. He did not stop. Instead, he began collecting cases no one wanted. Wrongful arrests, coerced confessions, quiet settlements that ruined lives. He spoke little, worked endlessly, and something strange happened. The louder the city grew, the calmer Elias became. Stoicism was no longer philosophy, it was survival. One winter night, as snow muted the streets, Elias received a call. Blocked number. Last chance, the voice said. Disappear. Elias listened. I have nothing to disappear from, he replied. The call dropped. Next morning, Elias got arrested. Charges unclear, evidence hidden. He stood alone in a holding cell, the same place he had visited countless times as an observer. He was the one on trial now. He sat there, breathing and waiting, knowing something they didn't. Truth has a way of building up. At trial, the state threw everything at him. Obstruction, incitement, fabricated witnesses. The courtroom buzzed. Elias stood when called. The judge asked, "Do you wish to make a statement?" Elias closed his eyes. 7 years of silence, a lifetime of restraint. He opened them. Yes, he said. 1. The room stilled. I believed once that justice was loud, Elias began. That if you argued well enough, shouted long enough, truth would win. He looked at the jury. I was wrong. He turned to the officers who framed him. Truth doesn't need volume. It needs endurance. He faced the judge. You can convict me today. The system will continue, but I also will, in every person who learned to stand without screaming. He paused. This is my last word. Not guilty. Then Elias Verne vanished. No interviews, no book deals, no speeches. Some say he returned to silence. Others say he teaches young lawyers how to listen. But in Greyhaven, when injustice happens quietly, people still whisper his name. And remember, the strongest man in the room is rarely the one who speaks the most. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more.